We live in a culture that is geographically driven. There's this constant conversation in the church is never in the walls, it's outside the walls. But the church is also called to be a place where people can come together, and there is a dwelling place. There is this sense of domicile and connectedness. At times asking for building improvement stuff, it doesn't feel spiritual and it doesn't feel vision forward. But the truth is, those are critical steps that give us the ability to chase vision.
You know, when you talk about, concrete, HVAC units, fire suppression, it's super easy to disconnect those things from church. Even easier for us to disconnect it from the idea that, well, if I call church my family and the building is where we gather and get together, that's my pavement. The doors we walk through are my responsibility. We are a part of this house. This is our church home, and we are all together in this. We already accomplished some of the roof work that is necessary. We have HVAC units that need to be replaced. We still have some significant issues that we need to address with our fire suppression system. The reality is, if our sprinklers don't function, our fire marshal will not allow us to keep our doors open. Vintage so far has been incredibly faithful, and we have brought in about $246,000. So we're now at a point where, in order to close out phase one, we need $182,700.
Why do we need to take care of this house? So we can do the things God's called us to do in the city. So one of my dreams with this Plant for Purpose is not just to get these phases done, it's to put a realization in front of people that there are a lot of things behind the scenes that need to get done that we're holding back, that we want to do, and we can't do those.
I think the thing I would love to see as we talk about just the reality that finance is necessary. Every person that considers Vintage to be a part of this family, every person that considers Vintage to be their house of worship, I would invite them to consider sacrificial gifts.
Maybe a bigger drive for me is to ask everybody in this house to tithe. I am convinced if the people of God are faithful to the tithe and the offering, if every family that came to this church tithed, we wouldn't need this campaign.
When somebody comes to us, which we are seeing increased numbers like you wouldn't believe, and they say, hey, I have this financial need. When we meet that need, it's not Greg or I meeting that need. It's the body of Christ in the tithe and in the offering are the things that are meeting that need. As excitement grows, as passion grows, as the fear of the Lord grows, in our body, the answer is always there's more work to be done.
One of the things that drove me early was this question. If Vintage dried up tomorrow, would anybody care? Would anybody in the city know we existed? We're here, doesn't matter. That's where the Planted with Purpose teaching came from out of Jeremiah, which is this call that I think we've missed as the body of Christ, which is to aggressively give ourselves to the cities we're in for their better, to make them a better place, to make them more profitable in the business sector, to make them more profitable in the recreation sector. Like, I have some friends in Idaho that pastor a church, and they run a church up there, and they built an entire sports complex just for the city, just to use for free. Soccer fields and very similar culture to Fort Collins. And Daniel and I were out there, we both caught the same thing there. We're like, oh yeah, this feels 100% right, to become a blessing to the region. Like, to figure out a way to just make Fort Collins better because Vintage was here, not just because we're giving the gospel. That's wonderful, and we're gonna do that, but because we actually put boots on the ground to make it better.